All right, let's talk about women's basketball. 8 straight wins for the Illini. They're now 21-5 on the season, tied a record already for regular season wins. Just amazing what Shauna Green has done, winning 10 of 11, winning 8 straight. They look like a no doubt shoe-in for the NCAA tournament, and now they head on the road and play 2 top 4 teams with UCLA and USC the next couple of days on national television. So Big Ten Network against UCLA, and I believe it's Fox for USC. We're going up against our FS1, right, for USC. So some big opportunities here for women's basketball. But Joey, you cover this program better than anybody. What has led to this? I mean, through the injuries, how has Shauna Green and this program been able to put together the longest conference win streak in program history?
Yeah, she's just not really let them get lost in it all, right? Like, okay, you lose Micaiah Cook, you lose Gretchen Dolan. Before the season, you lose Letty Vasconcelos. And Shauna Green just is, okay, the hell with it, right? Like, just keep going forward. And Kendall Bostic is really good. Like, that's kind of the cliche answer, but Kendall Bostic is a really good basketball player. Genesis Bryant has taken over this point guard role and has run with it. I mean, she is absolutely playing at such a high level right now. Dahlia McKenzie is probably the most confident version of herself. You could say the same with Bryn Shoup-Hill, and kind of talking around defensively. I think they've been playing pretty well on that end, and talking around. It's like, hey, if all these guys weren't here, if this wasn't their third year in the system, the third year of understanding what is expected defensively, then maybe this could add up. Maybe all of these injuries and the short rotation and the 40 minutes and not being as connected and as understanding of who does what well, maybe this doesn't go like this. But what they've been able to do since Micaiah Cook, since Gretchen Dolan were officially ruled out in the middle of January, it's really remarkable. And some of that, you look at this win streak, they beat the bad teams they were supposed to beat. They avoided those bad losses. You can look at last year, they had a bad loss to Wisconsin. They had a bad loss to Purdue. They avoided those this year, and I think that Nebraska win, that was a good win. Nebraska's a top 50 net team. That's a nice win for Illinois. Then obviously you go to Maryland and you beat Maryland at Maryland, and that
First
kind of really
beat them. You were 0-17 and you beat a ranked Maryland at their place.
So that kind of gave it like, okay, they're not just beating terrible Big Ten teams. Like there's something here. Now, when I say that, they're for the most part handling some of those bottom tier Big Ten teams, but they're kind of figuring it out. I know you kind of tweet, I don't remember the text to me or a tweet is like, seniors die hard, and I hate living on those cliches, but it matters, man.
I love that quote by John Gross, and it's true. And let's address the elephant in the room. Like this team, I mean, Micaiah Cook's a former first team and second team All Big Ten player. He's the best player the last couple of years for Illinois, along with Kendall Bostic, in my opinion, last year. You know how I feel about Gretchen Dolan. I know you feel the same way. I think she's going to be a star in the Big Ten, and she was kind of taking that star turn as a double-digit scorer this year. So to lose her just as that was happening and just as you lost Micaiah Cook was really, really difficult. Micaiah Cook has an illness. Haven't specified what that is, but she's out, and she's been dealing with it for a couple of years. Shauna Green said on BTN today. And then a knee injury for Gretchen Dolan. And then Jasmine Brown Hager recently, who's been starting games for them and playing pretty well, the Mississippi State transfer. She now has a hamstring injury, is going to be out at least this week. But the difference between what they are going through and how they are succeeding through it and what Illinois men's basketball is doing with injuries and illness is this is an old team, right? So I don't like when people are using like women's basketball as a swipe at men, but the difference is these teams, they played together. Kendall Bostic is a proven veteran. Adalia McKenzie is a proven veteran. Bryn Shoup-Hill has been here for 3 years. It's just these guys, Genesis Bryant obviously is an all Big Ten player. They've been through it together and they know what their roles are. And as you said, like they've had a really decent break in the schedule, but they've also been able to beat Maryland and not lose games they shouldn't lose. And they beat Iowa. They won at Indiana. Those are not easy teams to beat either. So it's credit to Shauna Green. It's a credit to these seniors, man. Like what a mark they have left on the program. And despite those injuries, which could have caused a team to fold, they said, no, we're not going out that way. We've gone too far with this program just to lay down, die, and not go to an NCAA tournament. And kudos to them, man. They've not wilted. They have grown stronger. I wanted to kind of break down stats of how that's happened. Kendall Bostic's the same player. She's averaging like the same thing, but she's just meant so much to them as that rock. Adalia McKenzie might be the one who's taken her game
probably the one. Yeah.
To the biggest level. Last 3 games, 20 points, 47% shooting, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 steals. Since Cook's been out, 14 points for her. And Genesis Bryant has just really stepped up as the lead guard. Not a role she played a ton, but she did a little bit of it with Makaira. But during the 8-game win streak, 17 points, 46% from 3, 5.1 assists. And I don't want to overlook Bryn Shupil. I think so been a big part of their defensive effort that you're talking about, Joey. So those 4 seniors, man, like none of them are going to do the things to get their jerseys up in the rafters, but they will go down in history of this program for what they've done the last 3 years. And this last 2 months has been uber special.
Yeah, I'm with you on everything. I think Bryn Shupil probably gets overlooked in all of this because of what Bostic, McKenzie, and Bryant are doing. Her offensive rebounding, she's had a few block shots here or there. Defensively, she's really smart. Last year stunk for her. She had a wrist injury. She couldn't get the reps up. It was just an on and off year. But if you think back to that first year with Shauna Green, to have a stretch 4 in Bryn Shupil, to have someone with some height. I mean, she's not a giant by any stretch of the imagination, but someone who can go in there and be kind of in the way at the rim. They missed that a year ago, and she's really playing at a good level. And I think back to that 3 she hit at Maryland. She hit a big 3 the other night against Nebraska. It's easy to overlook her because of what else is happening, because Bostic and Bryan are playing at all Big Ten levels, because McKenzie he's got an ability with her power, with her strength, with her speed to take over a game in an instant on either side of the court. So you kind of lose Bryn Shupil in a lot of that, but she's been instrumental to this run here for Illinois women's basketball. So I just wanted to point out and take a second to really appreciate that, because it's, she might be a 5-5-5-5, like a 5x5 at some point, right? The way that she does a little bit of everything, understands her role, but been fun to cover. But now we have to say they're going to a tough test out west with UCLA, with USC, and Jasmine Brown-Haggers. Doesn't sound like she's going to be available with a hamstring injury.
This is 6 players. I mean, you had Corey Allen to that. Like you got 6 players. I don't want to overlook, Joey, before we dive into that.
Yeah, Barry Wallace.
Yeah. I mean, this looks like a 5-star freshman. Last 10 games for Barry Wallace, 11.4 points, 48% shooting, 44% from 3. Getting to watch women's basketball in the Big Ten the last couple of years, because how could they not get your attention? She reminds you of somebody that's playing at Indiana or playing at Ohio State, right? Those teams are full of these big, skilled wings, and Illinois has one of them now, stealing Barry Wallace out of Ohio, getting the McDonald's All-American here. She's a phenomenal talent, so skilled, long, and some of the things she's able to do defensively with her length, like it has impressed me here recently, but she looks the part, man, and she's playing the part here recently.
Yeah, defensively has really been her biggest step forward. Shauna Green, Brad Underwood, any college basketball coach on either side will tell you defense is probably the biggest hurdle for freshmen. Shauna Green and Barry Wallace had individual defensive meetings to kind of talk about things, and she's given Barry Wallace pretty tough assignments. I mean, you get Cheyenne Sellers, you get some of these top tier Big Ten players, because as you mentioned, physically you can match up. Now they might have a little more veteran savvy, they might know a little bit about this or that, but Shauna Green and this coaching staff have put Barry Wallace in tough assignments, and you're seeing that growth really start to happen. So yeah, I'm glad you didn't overlook her. She'll probably, I would imagine, start tonight and start tomorrow, or start on Sunday against USC. But she's come along, and Shauna said earlier this year, she said, I don't know. I told Barry, like, I don't know if without the injuries, if this would have been what your season looked like, right? If we would have put you on Cheyenne Sellers, but Barry Wallace, and this has earned the trust of his coaching staff. Shauna Green's calling big plays for her in this stretch of close games. I mean,
she had the go-ahead 3 at Maryland.
She did. Yeah. And this is going to be kind of that thing you look back on. And we've talked about it. We talked football earlier in this podcast. We've talked about it in the past. And remember when we were like, one of these days we're going to say, Brandon Henderson, do you remember coming in as an early enrollee and you're looking at Johnny Newton, Keith Randolph, Gaback as Seth Coleman, and you're playing all these positions. I like to let Shauna Green coach her own program and worry about her own program without drawing comparisons. But that's something in a year from now, in 2 years from now, it's like, hey, Barry, do you remember as a freshman, you were going up against Cheyenne Sellers and you had to have these big moments for a team that's going to the NCAA tournament? You don't want to look too far because this has been a really fun team to cover, a fun team for fans to watch. And I think you've seen them captivate a lot of fans with the way they've kind of just plugged along. But this is something that's going to help Barry Wallace down the line. And she looks like her and Gretchen Dolan look like a pretty good wing combo for Illinois.
I was going to say next year, you got a lot of questions with all these seniors moving on, but you feel like, yeah, Barry Wallace, who can be an all Big Ten caliber player. I think as a sophomore, Gretchen Dolan, I think can be one of the better scorers in the Big Ten as a sophomore or juniors, as long as she is healthy. And then you're adding a very, very good recruiting class coming in that I think they're just going to roll with, right? They're going to build with that class. They'll add some transfers for sure, but they'll roll with that really talented class, including Destiny Jackson as the point guard. Are you ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active and busy lifestyle. And with over 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. So you can choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. And Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. So reach your goals this new year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/Illini50off and use code Illini50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Illini50off at factormeals.com/Illini50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. But you mentioned it, Joey, going on the road this week, nothing to lose, everything to gain. Right, UCLA, number 3 team in the country after losing last week to USC, number 4 team in the country, I believe. So Thursday night against UCLA, Lauren Betts, their superstar center, has been injured here recently, so maybe that can help. It is a loaded team. And then USC, obviously, probably with the National Player of the Year and Juju Watkins, who averages 26 points a game. Nothing to lose here, though, right? I mean, and then you wrap up with Michigan.
Yeah, it is a nothing to lose 2 games in California. If you win one of those, Shauna Green's got a really darn good case, a better case. She's already got a really darn good case for Big Ten Coach of the Year, but that would really accelerate that. I think this is a no-doubt tournament team. Anyway, ESPN, its latest projections had Illinois as of 2 days ago as a 9 seed. I want to make sure I have that right. They were 8 seed in the 8-9 game where they would play South Dakota State and then run into South Carolina in the next round. So I think this
even if you lose the next couple games by double digits, I don't even think you're going down a seed line.
Doesn't matter. The final 4 of this season, the final 4 games of this season, the 2 big ones were Nebraska and Michigan. And if you can steal one against all odds, and I don't know that I would project Illinois to go to California, to go to LA and to win one of those games, then that's just a cherry on top. You've got they took care of Nebraska. Michigan, I hope that place is packed. I hope that place has a juice up fan base for the final game for the seniors that took a program that needed the seniors way more than they needed the program, and elevated this thing into a team with 2 back-to-back NCAA tournament or 2 NCAA tournament appearances in 3 years and a WBIT championship in between those. Those were the 2 ones. And if you can go out there, all the better. The big story tonight, Jeremy, we're watching Lauren Betts, UCLA star center. She did not play on Sunday night. She had her foot in a boot. I don't know her status. Shauna Green said yesterday they're expecting, or Tuesday, I don't even know what day, Tuesday I think it was. Maybe it was yesterday. Who could say? That they're expecting Betts to play because that's what you do as a coach. No coach is going to go in unless someone's been ruled out for 2 weeks or for a season and say, no, we didn't think about they'd play. Why? Why do you ask? Like they're planning on seeing her, but if she doesn't play, we'll see what happens. I think they've been comfortable putting Kendall Bostic on an island against some of the better centers. You look at Sarah Williams at Wisconsin. You look at Markowski at Nebraska. They did double her late on the second half there. They've been saying, hey, if your center wants to go off for 25 or 30 points, we believe in our other guards, and really that's all they are is guards at this point outside of Bostic and Shoop Hill, to shut down or to contain rather some of the other stars. So we'll see. That's an interesting storyline going into it, but nothing to lose. That's my rambling here. That's the end of the day. There's nothing to lose.
Here's the other thing. Kudos to all these girls, because they're playing 35 to 40 minutes.
Mostly 40.
Yeah, I mean, Kendall is, if she gets a break in a game, it's a rarity. Genesis maybe leaves for a minute, if that. And now with only 6 players healthy, basically that play for them, like Haven Smith can come in the game as a center for a few minutes, is a true freshman, but it's basically a 6 deep team right now, and they're logging just heavy minutes. So I know they're in the prime of their physical peaks here, but that's ridiculous for a long season when they're dealing with their own aches and pains, right? So just an unbelievable thing that they're going through right now. And yeah, if they're able to beat Michigan, I was texting you earlier with like Maryland, who's the 5 right now in the Big Ten. Illinois is in 4th place. If you beat Michigan, Maryland's got Ohio State as a top 10 team left on their schedule. I think Indiana as well. It's not an easy win. If Illinois beats Michigan, they likely have a double bye in the Big Ten tournament, which that's another huge feather in the cap of this program. Sets you up for potential success better in the Big Ten tournament as well. But then this team's got a chance to win an NCAA tournament game despite having 6 or 7 players and losing 2 of your best players. And if they can win their first NCAA tournament game in more than 20 years, just another great sign of how great of a hire Shauna Green was.
Yeah, absolutely. All those things. The Big Ten tournament's kind of a catch-22. Like, you would take the double bye because you have presumably at that point 7 players if Jasmine Brown-Hager comes back. I don't know what her timeline is for the remainder of the regular season into the conference tournament. So you would take the rest, obviously. But on the other side of the coin, like, to stack another quad 1, quad 2 win, probably a quad 2 win, like, it's pretty appealing too, to see if maybe you can jump up. You take the double bye, you take the rest.
Take the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. You take all those things. They're an 8 now. You win 1 out west, you probably move up a seed line. I don't know that Michigan moves you up. Beating Michigan on its own, I don't know if that moves you up if you lose the 2 out west, given Michigan is
they're right on the
in the net. As of now, that's a fringe quad 1 game. We need to make the quad systems the same. And like quad
top 25 at home for women and top 30 for men. Yeah, a little different.
Yeah, so Illinois right now in quad 1 games, just to keep everybody up to date. I know that's going to change.
2 and 4, 4 and 1 in quad 1 games.
Or quad 2 games. Yeah, and some of those games have been kind of inside and out of quad 1 range, but again, we're that's a conversation for a week and a half or 2 weeks when you get closer to the NCAA tournament. It's just a remarkable job. This coaching staff has found a way to, Barry Wallace comes in and she's maybe more of a 3-4, and they start giving her more guard responsibilities because that's what the rotation dictates. Genesis Bryant largely had been a 2 guard. She steps into being the true point guard of this team. Jasmine Brown-Hager takes on some point guard responsibilities. That is not her position. Adalia McKenzie steps up. Kendall Bostic's defense. I mean, just go down the line.
Talk about Adalia McKenzie for a minute, because the one thing you wanted more of out of Adalia McKenzie was consistency, and really consistency with her confidence and her edge. And that has not been a problem. It is, she is constantly, she's always had energy, but you could tell sometimes when she just, it wasn't there for her, and it led to some inconsistency. She's just been a dog this year, and it is so fun to watch because she's such an engine of what they do, connects everything, but her ability to get downhill, they're one real big wing that has a lot of experience that's able to power through. She reminds me of Ravante Rice just in her play style. And then she's hit some threes, but her rebounding, her playmaking for her teammates has gone up. I just think she's been as important as anybody. I mean, Kendall's been awesome. Genesis has been clutch, but Adalia, especially the last few weeks, has been great.
Yeah, they'd always talked about her as Shauna Green always said, X factor. Well, now she's just there all the
A factor.
time. Yeah, that's right. When she gets downhill, when she comes off that screen, puts her head down and turns the corner to the rim, there's not a lot of players who can really slow her down. She's planted 15 fouls in the last 2 games on opposing teams. And when you're talking, maybe some of those are bigs coming over and helped it when she's downhill. Not a lot of teams have enough bigs to withstand foul trouble. Like, that is significant to plan all of those fouls. Like what, as you mentioned, Ravante, that's like what Terrence Shannon did when he just fouled everybody under the sun, or drew fouls against everybody under the sun, because he got downhill. And you have 2 options. You give him a good look at the rim, or you try to contest and risk drawing a foul. That's been the part of her game that's always been there, but she's elevated it just a little bit more. And you pair that with hitting a few threes. It's still not her game, but I think she's more comfortable in doing that. Some of those mid-range jumpers, I think she's more comfortable in doing that. Those are more kind of enhance or supplement her game. Her game is getting downhill, getting to the rim. But along those lines, I think she's done a good job when you've been kind of missing now without Jasmine Brown-Hager and Genesis Bryant's your point guard. She's done a good job of facilitating, getting downhill, and maybe the help comes and you hit Bryn Shoop-Hill or Kendall Bostic, or you spray it out to a Barry Wallace or Genesis Bryant for a corner 3-pointer. Like, that has been a part of her game that's evolved. And I think she's got at least 3 or 4 assists here in the last couple games. In each game, that's really meaningful for what this team does.
Yeah, speaking of free throws, this team is the 3rd best free throw shooting team in the country at 80% right now. And they get there a lot, 36 in the country in free throw rate. They don't turn it over. They're 13th in the country in turnover rate. They're an elite defensive rebounding team at 9th in the country. And they are unbelievable, have a huge advantage on 3-pointers, right? Like, they are shooting 34%. They don't shoot a lot of them, 295th in the country, but they hold opponents to 28% from 3. So that speaks to the defense. It's a little bit of the style of play. It tells you they can do it on both ends right now, and just really solid despite all the adversity they have faced. So I just encourage people to watch the next couple games if you haven't gotten into it. At the worst, you get to see 2 of the best teams in the country and some of the best players in the country with UCLA and Lauren Betts. 8:30 Central Time tonight, Thursday, February 20th on Big Ten Network. Then Sunday, 3 o'clock tip-off on FS1 against number 4 USC. And then next Sunday, as you said, Joey, Senior Day. Illinois men's basketball is playing at 3:30 or 2:30 Central Time. I can't remember exactly.
Keep talking while Google works for me.
At Michigan. Well, Illinois women host Michigan right before that. So go on out to Senior Day for what has just been a special senior class. 12:30 tip-off Sunday, March 2nd at State Farm Center. That'll also be on the Big Ten Network as well.
2:45 for the men that day. So especially if you're in town, you can find a way to do both. It's a fun story. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And I think Shauna Green after the Nebraska game said, people are really, you spill a little coffee.
Yeah, no, just a little water.
Oh man, that's
a little more in there than I thought.
I should have let that go, but I couldn't.
No,
we have lids here. I would maybe encourage that concept. People are gravitating toward this because she said people can relate to what this team. Your back's against the wall. Things are tough, and you just got to figure out your way forward. And this has been a senior group that's, as we talked about, changed so much of what this program is. And the transfers mattered, and you go and look at Adalia McKenzie and Kendall Bostic, who picked this program under Nancy Fay. That stunk. It was terrible. And they came here and hard to turning it around. And obviously you bring in some transfers, some talented younger players to elevate that. But those 2 in particular came here, and there was not a big sell to come to Illinois women's basketball. You didn't have a new coach bumped and the relationships that Shauna had with Makaira and Bryn and Genesis. It was just go there and see what happens. And they've been a huge part of fixing this thing and putting this thing on a really good path forward for Illinois women's basketball.
The other thing is they've had a couple of their next signing class already here, right?
Yeah, Erica Finney, the Australian, she's a heck of a good shooter. I mean, there's been a little bit of tweaks with her shot or just cleaning some things up. She's been putting the ball on the floor. They're on scout team right now, so they're red shirting. She can shoot the heck out of it, and she's really – I know she came here wanting to be known more than just a shooter. which I think that's shown up from everything I understand while she's been on campus, but she can really, really shoot the ball. I mean, at a really, really high level. That's going to be interesting to watch next year. And Sierra Parchment, I watched a little bit of her going through a one-on-one the other day while we were waiting for media. She's she's skilled. She can play that 3-4. She's really skilled. She's very, very skilled at that part of her game. And then obviously the rest of the recruiting class will get here. But getting those two here to one, understand how this thing goes, right? And if you're Erica Finney, you're moving across the world from Australia to learn some of these defensive concepts, to get the speed on scout team against an Adalia McKenzie, Genesis Bryant, Kendall Bostic, Brent Shoup-Hill. That matters. Defensively, there's always an adjustment. I know you'll hear that probably throughout the offseason and when the rest of the class gets on campus. But we had I jumped on with Piper to co-host one day when I know Lon listens to this, so I can give him crap with him knowing when Lon was on one of his many vacations. And we had Calamity on and talked with her, and just to see the adversity, to see how you kind of come through some of that adversity. And Erica Finney and Sierra got here. It was early on before this win streak took place, and you learn from Kendall Bostic, from Adalia McKenzie, from Genesis Bryant, just how you navigate through it. And I think that's a big deal for them, and just a kickstart for their college careers. That's really, really meaningful.
Yeah, and Sierra from Canada, so she gets to acclimate a little bit here. It's a little bit easier than what Eric is probably going through, but it's just they get to see it. They get to see the culture. Like, that's one of the concerns you have as a coach is, like, when you lose all that senior class that built it, do the people coming in know it? And obviously Barry gets to see it this year and be a part of it. And, Jasmine gets to see it and be a part of it. And Gretchen, you hope, is a bridge to that. Corey Allen, you hope, is a bridge to that. But just for those girls to see what Kendall Bostic does every day, to see what Genesis Bryant and Adalia McKenzie and Brent Shoup-Hill do every day, I think can be really, really valuable for them. So just awesome what's happening in that program.
Yeah, we think back to that first year, and they go on that run to the tournament, and you can look back and maybe lucked it a little bit into that. Obviously, Shauna Green's a good coach, and their staff is really good, and there's talented players. This, as you've seen what this has been, I know last year had some ups and downs. They were playing really good basketball at the end of last year, obviously going to win the WBIT, and you see this year's. It's a lot of sustainability there with what they're doing. Obviously, it was a huge turnover on the way after this team. But as you mentioned, now it's time for Barry Wallace, for Gretchen Dolan, for Jasmine Brown-Hager, for Erica Finney, Sierra Parchment. Now it's you've got the roles, you've got the voice. You're ready to jump into this. And obviously, I think they'll get in the portal for a combo guard, probably for another lead guard. But you're bringing in Destiny Jackson, who's incredibly talented, a 5-star guard from Chicago. Naomi Benson is tough as hell. That has been the report on her. She is just a really, really tough player. She'll be coming in another, forward. Manuela Alves, another 4-5 type who's just tough.
They're getting bigger.
They're getting bigger. They're keeping some of that toughness, some of that edge. And Shauna Green, and that was kind of, we talked about this with Destiny Jackson pitches. We've won with small guards. We've had small guards have a lot of success in our systems. Destiny Jackson bought into that. So we'll see what they add in the portal, but this is a really fun time to cover this program and see what they're turning into.
Awesome. Good stuff. And go check them out on Senior Day on Sunday, March 2nd. All right, that'll wrap it up for us. We appreciate you guys listening to the Illini Inquirer Podcast. Give us a follow, rating, review wherever you get your podcast. Check us out on YouTube as well. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notifications bell. I got to go dry off after that water mishap. But for Joey Wagner, I'm Jeremy Werner. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer Podcast.